anyone? You know, I just looked and read the back of this description, and it's complete nonsense compared to what the game is, but this is a pretty fun social deduction game that is on Kickstarter right now that they sent to me, and so I want to talk about it because I enjoyed it. Morpho is a game that plays for 3 to 9 players that is very much along the lines of Coup. I've talked about Coup a lot in this channel, and I particularly enjoy Coup. I also really enjoy Avalon. I like social deduction. That's kind of my jam. And so Morpho takes on a lot of the same qualities as these other social deduction games. You'll basically have a good team, the blue team. You'll have a bad team, the killers, the killer team. And then you'll also have a little bit of a neutral team, the deserters who just want to leave the game. They just want to get out of here completely. But that's not all. You'll also have a purple team, which are various different roles that have their own goals that they're trying to pursue and they're trying to win. And then you also have a green team, which is the same thing, just a different team. The reason for the colors I'll get into in a second. Because the premise of the game is to do the thing that is on your card. You might be a blue member and then you're trying for the leader to indicate where the technician is. Or you might be a red member and you're trying to kill the leader. Or you're a deserter, so you're just trying to leave the game, or you're a purple or a green member trying to do your own specific things. Those are the general overview of what you can do and what you should be looking to do on your turn. Now, the trick or the gimmick of this game is that if you're playing from 3 to 6 players, everybody gets 2 different roles. If you're playing from 7 to 9 players, it's a lot more straightforward. You just have one role, one thing that you need to accomplish. But if you're playing with 2 different characters, But if you're playing with less players and you have these 2 cards, that's where things start to get a little bit interesting because you might be in conflict with yourself. So on your turn, you can do 3 things. You can look at somebody's card. That's it. You just take a card that's beside you, either to your left or to your right, and you get to look at it and you put it back. That's huge. You can also exchange one of your cards with one lone card in the center. That's the second thing you can do on your turn. And then the third thing you can do on your turn is the action related to your character. And in order to do that, you'll turn that character face up. Both of your characters are face down. And you will say, I am performing this action, the kill action, and I am killing that specific card. And you have to choose which of a player's 2 roles you're going to kill or eliminate from the game. Your action also might be, yeah, I have 2 deserter cards in front of me, so I'm leaving. Goodbye. Or your action might be something different. Those are the 3 things you can do in your turn. Gather information, swap with the middle to hopefully get yourself out of conflict or put yourself into a better position to achieve certain roles' goals, and then do your action. Now, in a basic game, you're going to be playing just with the blue, the red, and the yellow deserter faction, so you're not going to have to worry about the purple and the green. But the game then all becomes about ramping up as to when you do your thing and when you've exposed yourself. The leader, for example, needs to indicate a specific member of the blue team, but they can only do so on their next turn. So if they reveal themselves, then the killer has a clear shot at them to take them out. But there's also a bodyguard who can protect anyone who they're adjacent to. So it's all about moving these roles in the right way and gathering enough information as quickly as possible to make the first strike. If you're the deserter, you're just trying to get another deserter card and then peace out, but you need to make sure before you do that that you're not adjacent to 2 different characters, the leader and the bodyguard, that end up blocking your escape route. If it seems like a complicated inner working sort of thing, it's not as complicated as it may first come across. And what actually makes this pretty exciting and pretty fun is you're gathering this information so quickly. It's like 2 rounds before everyone knows something or a lot of something about other people's cards and could basically solve the puzzle around the table and see who's going to win and who's not. And this is really neat. This goes a little bit away from the social aspect and more just the deduction aspect, or not even the deduction aspect, honestly, just the information gathering aspect of a game. You're trying to race to gather the information that you need and put the cards in the spots that you need them to go. There's also an element of, okay, I'm putting this thing into the middle and watching who takes that thing and trying to mentally keep track of these ever shifting 3 cups of pieces so that you know that the little magic ball is under that one, and that's the thing that you either need to kill or to indicate. And at its basic level, it's fine. It's not as interesting as when you start to throw in the purple and the green aspects, because every round you can play on the expert mode, which if you are familiar with social deduction games, I'd suggest you play 1 round first to get your bearings and see how everything interacts, and then I would never play without the expert mode, where you randomize which character is going to be in the deck. So you don't know what special character there is, and because the special characters all have different elements in terms of what they're looking for, it shakes up the puzzle just enough that you want to feel things out quickly, but you don't want to reveal too much information. They're really pushing this forward as a social deduction game you can play with 3 players. Well, you can also play Coup with 3 players as well. And I've played it only, honestly, at the 3-player count. I've gotten this a little bit later, and I haven't had the chance to play it at that higher player count. But being a fairly substantial veteran of this genre, I can see the puzzle that will shape at the different player counts as well. And I think it actually will be a little bit more exciting in that 4 to 6 player range. And I think potentially a little bit less exciting at that 7 to 9 player range. I think 4 to 6 people is going to be the sweet spot because you won't be able to solve it as quickly as we did. But that being said, the addition of the unknown character really shook things up in a very fun way. And when you get more players, you get to add in different unknown characters as well that just don't work at the 3-player count. Like the extremist who needs to eliminate 3 people in a row while also making sure that the people who they eliminate won't win the game for either the blue side or the red side. Because if the red side, the killer dies, blue side automatically wins. If the leader dies, red automatically wins. If the technician dies, one of the green members might win. So you get these fun back and forth characters that I think are really integral to the experience and make the game a lot of fun. And I did have a lot of fun. We all had a lot of fun with this game. This is something that won't necessarily replace Coup for me, but if you have a group that finds something like Coup a little bit too basic, this is absolutely one to check out as well.
Just sitting down to edit, I haven't set up any lights, but I've set up the camera just briefly because I wanted to jump in and say that I have played it again. I think the optimal player count is not 4. I think it's 5 to 6. I think with the deserters in play, and there are a lot of deserters in play, even playing with the unknowns, it's really fun to try to keep track of pushing your luck and deciding if you're going to escape as the deserter. And just kind of like when you're in the 3-player. In a 4-player game, if you're trying to escape and you have 2 deserters and you're so excited to just get the heck out of Dodge, you really have to worry that either the guard or the leader is on either side. And because there are 2 of them, the chances that one of them is beside you is fairly high. And so it really makes that the deserter end game or the deserter win condition not as viable as I would like it to be. I understand that it has to be balanced because if it's too easy to desert, you can just get the 2 deserters and then just peace out on your second turn and nobody can stop you. And you obviously want to prevent that, but I just think with 5 players, there's enough space in between that there's a chance that the leader or the guard is on a different playing field, basically. Although checking the rules with 5 players, it says there's 2 bodyguards. With 6 players, it says there's 3. This is a tough one because I feel like the deserter win condition is hard to achieve, and yet it's one that you want to achieve because you yourself get all the points. So I'd keep that in mind when purchasing, that it is this sort of complicated style of Coup, but fairly complicated. I also played it last night with some people who really enjoy Coup. They own Coup, they play it a lot, and we played it right after this, and they much preferred Coup because they couldn't really wrap their head around the complexity and things conflicting with each other, and keeping track of all that information in their head was difficult and not as accessible and not as exciting or interesting for them because they felt a little overwhelmed by the things that were happening around the table. So know that it's not going to be as easy to pick up and play as something simpler, but if you're looking for a more advanced, complicated thing, maybe found Coup too simple, the decisions were too simple, then I think this is something you could consider opting for. So just wanted to touch upon that experience with 4 players because I actually think the 3-player experience might be a bit better because you only have 2 cards to worry about versus 4 cards to worry about when you're trying to escape as a deserter, or if you're trying to protect people or deal with adjacency. I think it's a little bit more, potentially more interesting at 3 than it is 4, because you have less variables that can really interfere with your plans. And even if you know things about other people, it's up to you then to table talk to try to get them to do something different versus be able to actually access or affect them in any way other than verbally as well. So if you don't like that element, then I think that's good to know. And that's why I wanted to make this sort of update to what I've previously filmed. Now back to past Chris, who's probably got better lighting and definitely better hair.
The one nitpick that I wasn't as much of a fan of is that the little reference cards that they give you, they come on the same sort of size cards. They're double-sided. And you need 2 of them to get all of the information as to what all the characters do, because everybody has to know what the characters do so that you can bluff what you might be looking for, or you can be aware of not revealing too much information. And I just wish that this was a single card, honestly. I know it's not going to be, because a single card sheet is 54 cards, and you know, this is what helps them get to that number, and that's probably what they'll be charged at the factory. But I still would like it. I would also like a reminder of the 3 things that you can do on your turn for new players. That's probably would be helpful to have on the reference card. And then also, I think you could just put, there are these, there are the character roles, and then there are the reference card, basically, that you'll leave out on the table so everybody knows what characters are in the game. You could literally just put what they all do on this card, because they're big enough and people are looking at them anyway to remember what's in the game. You probably don't need it as much on these as well. Or you could have double and nobody would notice. So that's just sort of a nitpick in terms of the accessibility of the game. And hey, might as well say it now before it's in production. And that might change or it might not. Who knows? Because this is a prototype copy that was sent to me. The other thing that I do want to point out is that it is not 1 round determines who wins the game. Each character has these little dots on the top corner that indicate how many points you get if you win the round. And so characters that have a little bit more of a difficult ability will win more points. And if you manage to have 2 of the same faction in front of you, then you get double those points. And it's actually the first person to get to 10 points will win the game. So it's not about just winning 1 round. It's sort of like Night of the Ninja does this as well, where you have to pay attention to how many points people are at. And does it make sense for you to win the game if that other player might be getting more points than you? Or should you pivot your strategy and try to get a different role so that you can make sure that they don't win in the grand scheme of things? And I really like the element that this brings as well, because it helps shake up the game and it makes the rounds mean something, but it's not like a winner-take-all situation. And this also helps mitigate those times where you just get a bad draw. And there was a time where I knew everything that was around the table and I had 2 deserters and I was so excited to just leave the game and get the points, but I couldn't because I knew that the game was ending. I knew that I would be blocked. There was really nothing that I could do just on how everything kind of shook out. And so having these points be established makes for, I think, a more exciting game and a more exciting finale of the game as well. But yeah, that's Morpho. That's the general overview. I quite enjoyed myself with it. This is one that I don't think I'll be getting rid of. I like social deduction. I like Coup a lot. It's not going to necessarily replace Coup for me, but I think it can exist alongside Coup in that same vein as well. So if you like those sorts of games, this is one to legitimately consider checking out. I'm not sure as to the final price because it's, again, Kickstarter, and so I'll see that when it goes up. I think I heard this was going to be around $24 US, which is on the pricier side. If you're in a place where it gets you free shipping, and that might also be on the Kickstarter page, I'd consider it. If not, it's probably a bit too pricey for what it is. But again, this is the sort of thing where you may not see it in retail, so if you can get it at a reasonable price, I'd say do so. You'll have to make that decision for yourself. That's it for me. Hope this was helpful in determining if Morpho was right for you. Check out the campaign page. I don't know why I put it like that. A fun little deduction game that I don't think is going to veer too much on the social as it will the information gathering aspect of it. Because I could say, hey, what are you? or I could just look at your card and know that you are that thing, right? So it's less about sussing out a person's reaction and more about just gathering the information for your own dang self. But I liked it. If I gave ratings to preview prototype stuff, this would definitely be in that sort of seal of approval rating. But of course, have to wait till it comes out in the final copy to make that firm decision. I don't imagine much will change. And I do look forward to getting this to the table again. Anyway, hope that was helpful. My name's Chris George. I don't have a catchphrase. If you're still here, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. And if you're on the Kickstarter page, well, just click through and hit subscribe. Just do it. It really helps me out a lot. And I'm a nice enough guy, right? I hopefully helped you out. And if I didn't, well, then that's fine. You don't have to help me out. But I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.